Crises are more and more present and can change our lives from one day to the next. The areas affected by the catastrophic floods in Valencia are proof of this, making one of the worst natural disasters to affect Europe in recent decades. Between 29 October and 4 November, Valencia experienced record rainfall leading to severe flooding. The situation was officially declared as a serious incident, which led to the adoption of emergency protocols and the response of various agencies. But many consider it inadequate management of the crisis. This unprecedented event in Valencia is a strong reminder of the correlation between rising global temperatures and the intensification of extreme meteorological phenomena, which affect both urban and rural areas. This graph shows the accumulated rainfall over 24 hours in several cities in Valencia. As a type of crisis, we can say Valencia has a cobra crisis. The rainfall in Valencia is exceptionally intense. In the morning, the highest reading was 34 milliliters, but by the afternoon, a station in Sierra del Ave had already exceeded 100 milliliters. By the end, about 20 more stations saw similarly high levels. The storm was more intense in the afternoon, with Shiva recording over 120 milliliters in just 1 hour. This illustrates the severe and widespread nature of the downpour across the province. As Antonio Guterres, when Secretary General, stated, we need a rapid and deep change in the way we do business, how we generate power, how we build cities, and how we move, and how we feed the world. Could it have been avoided? How was this crisis managed? Mary will explain.
Riot police and protesters were seen clashing in Valencia on Saturday. Police used batons to hit demonstrators. Earlier, tens of thousands marched peacefully to demand the resignation of the regional president Carlos Manson, whose government was criticized for its response to deadly flash floods. At least one protester was filmed being detained. The flooding killed at least 270 people, according to Spain's Interior Ministry. I will continue our discussion by utilizing the method framework. This structured approach is essential for effectively communicating critical information during emergencies, allowing responders and stakeholders to understand the situation quickly and coordinate their efforts efficiently. To begin with, the floods in Valencia were declared a major incident due to the severe impact on the region. This declaration activated emergency protocols across local and national agencies, necessitating a coordinated multi-agency response to manage the crisis effectively. Specific towns and districts experienced significant water damage, requiring targeted emergency responses to address the needs of the affected communities. This incident was classified as a natural disaster, characterized by severe flooding resulting from unprecedented levels of rainfall in a short period of time, as it was already mentioned by my colleague. The primary hazards included rising flood waters, creating risks of drowning and hypothermia for those trapped. Access to the affected areas was severely hindered by submerged roads and debris. Emergency services had to find alternative routes and utilize specialized vehicles such as boats and high water rescue trucks to reach isolated communities and provide assistance. Now let's look at the situation from the perspective of crisis management. Shani, please continue.
Valencia's crisis response started with a failure in leadership and communication systems. Despite early warnings from meteorologists, regional leaders delayed issuing public alerts. The Valencian government sent critical text alerts hours after the initial flood warnings, leading to confusion and delayed evacuations. Behavioral experts suggest that this delay stemmed from cognitive biases, such as optimism bias, where leaders underestimated the severity of the situation, and a reluctance to escalate the crisis due to concerns about public panic. The command structure also faced scrutiny. Regional President Carlos Mazon failed to promptly request a military assistance, which could have accelerated rescue efforts. Eventually, over 10,000 military and police personnel were deployed alongside international aid. The National Recovery Plan was amended to prioritize funds for Valencia, while the regional government appointed a vice president for reconstruction. Immediate priorities included rebuilding infrastructure, providing housing for displaced families, and strengthening flood defenses. Preparedness. Proactive planning and robust early warning systems are critical. The delayed public alerts could have been avoided with better systems and protocols. Leadership and coordination. Command structures should ensure clear roles and responsibilities. Timely decisions and multi-agency coordination are non-negotiable during crises. Communication. The public must receive transparent and timely information to enable swift action. Continuous improvement through lessons learned is key to preventing future disasters. Governments must address climate change proactively, implementing comprehensive adaptation measures, enhancing early warning systems, and ensuring regional cooperation.
Let us now examine communication during the Valencia floods. In a corporate crisis like the recent Valencia floods, events unfold rapidly and cause widespread destruction. Such crises demand quick, clear, and accurate communication to save lives and effectively manage the situation. As Professor Chris Kingsley Haney stated, no matter what crisis you have, 80% of your success will be determined by your ability to communicate. This was especially true during the Valencia floods, where several communication challenges became evident. People did not receive mobile warnings until after 8 p.m., long after flooding had already caused severe damage. By that time, flood waters in some areas were as high as 3 meters, leaving many unprepared. Next, there were insufficient real time updates. As the situation worsened, people did not get enough information about how the flood was spreading or what they should do to stay safe. Clear evacuation instructions were missing, especially during the most critical hours. There was also a lack of coordination between regional and central governments. Instead of working together, they blamed each other. Another major issue was disjointed crisis communication. Update, Updates were not well organized or consistent. Messages were delayed and often conflicting, leaving the public confused and unsure about what to do. Inadequate external communication also played a role. The regional leader Carlos Mazon downplayed the crisis early on, claiming the rains would cease, while the flooding only got worse. Finally, the public reaction because of communication gaps was one of frustration and anger. Over 100,000 people protested, demanding accountability for delayed warnings and poor communication. People felt abandoned by their leaders during a critical time. The Valencia floods remind us how crucial clear, timely, and coordinated communication is during a crisis.
There are some steps need to be taken into consideration to prevent this happening again in Valencia. Improve the early warning systems. Receiving warnings of an upcoming flood is an easy way to keep people and homes safe. Need to use multiple warnings channels, not depend on one or two only channels. Need to use the traditional channel as well as a new challenge with special attention to older people and kids. Second, authority to re-evaluate the infrastructure. Nature-based solution is very important, like planting more trees, take care of landscape features that can act as dams to stop water. Third, community engagement, continuous education of community how to deal with this kind of situations. Homes should be equipped as well with essential tools like battery radios, extra food, and so on. Fourth, equipping flood-prone areas with boats. Map the areas that need to be taken into consideration with high flood risk using historical flood data, for example, climate models, and so on. Determine population and capacity of people in this kind of areas and equip these areas with essential boots for evacuation. speed of evacuation is very important. Can you use something like GPS in order to track guide evacuees along the fastest routes? Last thing, learning from past mistakes. Identify the gaps in early warning systems. And of course, your regulation need to be structured in a very strong way how to prevent this kind of crisis in the future.